Hi, grade 9 math students. I'm excited to talk to you today again about creating formulas and using algebra to figure out word problems. So we're going to use some of the same methods of yesterday, but one of the key components that's changing today is that we will be dealing with two variables. So two letters, and we've seen two letters before in an equation, and the most common one that I can think of is a linear equation, so y equals mx plus b, and we know that m and b are numbers that we put in, so it could be like y equals 3x plus 2, and I've just made this up, but if I'm looking at this, I have a letter y, and I still have a letter x, so we've seen equations with two letters in them. It's normal for us to see that, and today we're going to learn how to solve equations like that. So let's go into the first example. Let's dive in here. Example 1 says the cost of a pen is 3 times more the cost of a pencil, and the cost of 4 pencils and 3 pens is going to total $9.75. I want to, at the end of the day, figure out what the cost of a pencil is. So right now we need to make our let statements, and our let statements lets everybody know what each variable, each letter is kind of standing in its place for. So my first let statement here is going to be let x be the cost of pens or a pen. And then I'm going to use y as well. I'm not going to use p's here because p is the first letter of pen and pencil. So I'm just going to use x and y because that's what I'm used to seeing. Let y be the cost of a pencil or the pencils. Okay. And so now I know that I'm going to be dealing with x's and y's. And as soon as I know this, I can build an equation. So we're actually, if I have two variables, I'm going to end up with two equations. So my first equation is going to talk about this first sentence that we're seeing here in words, which is that a pen is 3 times the cost of a pencil. So let's deconstruct that. I'm going to write the sentence here and then we're going to fill in the letters. And I'm only going to do it this way once, and then we can kind of see from here. Okay, so a pen. So I said instead of pen, now we're going to insert our letter. And we said that here, pen is x. Okay, so x is, well, that is the same as saying equals. X equals 3 times, so 3, I'm going to do a dot for times, the cost of a pencil. And we said the cost of a pencil here, that's letter y. So x equals 3 times y. So really this question, if I were to make a formula from this, would be x, or an equation, equals 3y. Okay, so that's my first formula. My second equation or formula now is going to deal with the second part of this problem, which is that 4 pencils, might help if it's a highlighter, 4 pencils and 3 pens equals $9.75. Okay, so what this means now is that 3 pens, so 3 x's plus 4 pencils, so 4 y's equals $9.75. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at this second equation, there's no way for me to solve it right now because I have 2 separate letters in here. I cannot get one of them by itself because there's always going to be 2 there. So I'm going to have to use this first equation to help me solve the second equation. And specifically, in my first equation here, I'm telling you that x, that letter x, is the same as saying 3 y's. So what I can do here is that every time I see an x in my second equation, I can replace it with 3 y's. Okay, so step 1, I guess this is step 2. Step 1 is making our equation. Step 2, that's called substituting. So we're gonna substitute x equals 3y into equation 2. Okay, so every time I see an x, I'm going to replace that x with brackets 3y. And this is how that's going to look. So 3 bracket, because I'm not going to use my x anymore, 3y, close my bracket off. Everything else stays the same. Plus 4y equals $9.75. Okay, now let's do a quick check. I have a y and a y, no other letters. I'm okay with that. We can figure this out. So my first thing to do is I'm going to have to multiply, and I'm going to multiply these two things together because that's what it means when I have a number next to a bracket. So I'm going to do 3 times 3 here. 3 times 3 is 9. My y stays tight, so it comes along for that ride. Plus 4y equals 975. Okay. Now I'm going to gather my like terms. So that's my step 3 here. Gather like terms. Okay, so 9 plus 4, well, that's going to equal 13y, 975. Okay, and my last step, step 4, is going to be solve for y, or solve for your variable. And here I'm asking myself, what's happening between this 13 and this y? That's multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 13. And y here, if I do 975 divided by 13, that's going to equal 75 cents. So what does this mean? Okay, so I said y equals 75 or 0.75, but what does that actually mean? If I scroll back up to my like statements or my let statements, I said let y be the cost of a pencil. So this y means that every pencil costs 75 cents. So therefore, a pencil equals 75 cents. And one pen, because we said a pen is 3 times the cost of a pencil, now we have to do a pen, and you're going to do 3 times 0.75, which is going to equal 225. So I'm running out of room there, sorry. Okay, so this is kind of how we solve this. And remember, you can go back and re-listen to this, maybe slow it down, copy out the question. I really recommend that you guys watch it through once and actually watch it, and then go back and write out the solution, okay? Just like we would if we were in class. All right, so now let's look at the second example, and it says, Aretha has 85 cents in nickels and dimes in her piggy bank. She has 2 more nickels than dimes. How many nickels and dimes does she have? So this question is essentially the same as the first question. We're going to start by making 2 separate equations. So the first equation is going to have to deal with how much each of these pieces cost or are worth. So how much, whenever we're dealing with a money question, whenever we're dealing with a money question, we are asking how much does each piece, is each piece worth? So for example, I know that a nickel is 0.05 cents. Okay, so 5 cents. So 0.05. And a dime is 10 cents, so 0.10. Okay. And specifically, I know that she has 85 cents in her account. So let's make our let statement. So let N be the amount of nickels. Let D be the amount of dimes. Okay, and so let's build our first equation. So our first equation, I know that some amount of nickels plus some amount of dimes is going to equal 85 cents. So equation 1. I know that at the end of the equation we have 85 cents. And I know that I'm going to have some amount of nickels plus some amount of dimes equaling this. Just going to spread this out a little bit more. Okay. And so to figure this out, I actually need to put the amount that each of the nickels and the dimes is worth. So a nickel is 0.05 and a dime is 0.1. Okay, so I know that my nickels, which are 5 cents, plus my dimes, which are 10 cents, at the end is going to equal 85 cents. And I'm just trying to figure out this N and D, where N is the amount of nickels and D is the amount of dimes. So that when I put this into the equation, I'm going to end up with the correct numbers. So that's equation 1. My second equation has to do with how many more nickels and dimes she has from each other. So she says she has 2 more nickels than dimes. So that can be written as, so if she has 2 more nickels than dimes, that's the same thing. So equation 2. That's the same thing as saying that for every dime plus 2, because there's 2 more nickels, that's how many nickels she has. So my nickels is going to be every dime plus 2. Okay, so 2 more than the dimes. So now this is my second equation, and you might be seeing how we can solve this. So if I'm looking, I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space here. I have my 2 equations, and this second equation is saying that for every n that I see, I can replace it with d plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to do substitution. So let's sub d plus 2 equals n into equation 1. And what this is going to look like is that every time I see an n, I'm going to replace that with d plus 2. So this is what this is going to look like. So I have 0.05. Instead of n, I'm going to write d plus 2 plus 0.1 times d equals 0.85. Okay? So now I have all of these things, and if I'm looking at my equation, I only have one letter. I have a D and a D. Okay, so like I said, we have all one letter now. We can solve this equation. We're going to start by doing that distributive property by multiplying out this 0.505 into this bracket. So sorry, 0.05 times D, and then we're going to do 0.05 times 2. Okay, so if I do 0.05 times D, that's going to give me 0.05 Ds plus. If I do 0.05, I'll use a different color this time, 0.05 times 2, that's going to give me 0.1 plus 0.1D, because that's what was outside of the bracket, and this whole mess is going to equal 85 cents. Okay, well, now I can collect my like terms, and if I'm looking at here, this one has a D in it, and this one has a D in it. So I can add those together. 0.05 plus 0.1, that's 0.15. And you guys can be using a calculator right now if you need to. And I'm just going to rewrite everything else. So everything's super organized right now. And if I look here, I have one clump of D's on this side plus 0.1 equals 0.85. I want my D's to be by themselves. So I'm adding 0.1 on this side. I need to subtract it to bring it to the right-hand side. So 0.15D equals 0.85 minus 0.1. Okay. So then 0.15D equals, if I subtract 0.1 from 0.85, that's going to leave me with 0.75. Okay. And now I'm asking myself, what's happening between this 0.15 and my D? That's multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? Because I want all of my D's by themselves. Well, to undo multiplication, I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by this 0.15. And D is going to equal 5. So what does this mean? Well, this means that I have 5 dimes. Okay, so therefore, there are 5 dimes. And if I look further up, I said, well, I actually have 2 more nickels than I have dimes. So to figure out how many nickels, I need to add 2 to my 5. So, and 5 plus 2, which is 7 nickels. Okay, so again, please feel free to go back and re-watch this if you need help. I'm going to pause the video right here because I think that this is enough of this stuff. It's important in terms of being able to set up equations, and this is a big part of grade 10 math, so I feel like you do need some exposure to it, and we do need to practice. So there's practice problems in the question table. Make sure that you're putting your questions in that Google Doc so I can answer them live if you need help, and reach out to me. Let me know how you guys are doing. Okay, I hope that you have a great day.